Welcome to SWPL Matchday commentary. Well, I say commentary, it's not. It's pre-match here from Celtic versus Forfar Farmington. I'm Colin Watt. I'm delighted to be joined from K Park by Natasha Meikle. Natasha, what a lovely day for a game of football.
Yeah, I have to say it is an absolutely beautiful day for a game of football here at K Park. Just watching the teams warm up. It's nice and warm, but a bit overcast as well, which makes it perfect conditions here. So hoping for a good game.
And the game is live on BBC Sports Scotland website, so do check it out once you're finished here. But Natasha, this comes after a fantastic 1-0 victory over Hibs through the week. What did you make of that performance?
It was a great performance from the girls. It was so important to consolidate the victory from the Glasgow Derby game and not drop points in a tricky game against Hibs. So it was really important that the girls were able to come through that on a tough pitch to play on, tough conditions, under a lot of pressure, and another brilliant 3 points in the back, and move on to another big game here today. And it's vitally important, again, as we get to the real crunch time of the season, that the girls keep the momentum going right to the end, and another big 3 points up for grabs here today.
Definitely, it's the penultimate game in the SWPL calendar. We currently sit 3 points behind Glasgow City, who play today as well. They are away to Spartans. That game is live on BBC Alba at 4:10. The other horse in the two-horse race, as they called it a couple of weeks back, is Rangers, and they are at home to Motherwell. Now, we'll discuss a bit about that two-horse race, which Fran Alonso mentioned in his press conference yesterday. If you haven't catched that already, check it out on the State of Mind channel. But first of all, Natasha, you had a chance to sit down with Fran Alonso. Tell us a bit about that interview and what you took away from it.
I did. It was a really great interview, and we're really grateful to Fran to give up some time and come and speak to us. And it was really interesting to hear from him both about his own career and about this season with the girls. Certainly the one thing that I took away from it is that there's a lot of passion for Celtic, for the club, from Fran himself, who's really bought into it and really understands what this club is all about. And having that on the touchline, what you see is that really transfers onto the pitch as well. So the determination, the passion that you see from him at the side of the park moves onto the pitch, and we see it in the girls, and that's why he's been able to really get these great sort of hard-fought wins, like in the Glasgow Derby against Hibs. That's where that comes from. And something that I discussed with him is that passion, that enthusiasm, that infectious energy we see from him and the girls, it actually transfers to the fans as well. And I think what we're seeing on social media is more and more fans get involved and get invested in this game. And I think it can only be for the better. The wider the audience we reach with the game, the more people we get involved in it, and the more we can grow the game. So it's really encouraging to see, and I think Fran Alonso has to take a lot of credit for that.
He's certainly been on a fantastic run since the team came back after what was a mid-season break thanks to the lockdown here in Scotland. You look at the run they've been on, 11 unbeaten now, Natasha. That doesn't just come down to the manager himself, it comes down to the players, it comes down to the squad camaraderie. Was there anything that you took away from that sort of suggested that the girls are literally running through a wall for him right now?
They are. I mean, that is exactly the perfect way to put it, Colin. It really sounds like they are. They've really bought into his philosophy and everything he's trying to achieve at the club. And as you've said, in the last 11 games, Celtic have only lost 3 goals. That's incredible, and it really speaks to the quality of player that we have on our side, in particular in defence. And the one thing that Fran Alonso likes to do is find that balance between youth and experience. And we see that in the squad lineup. There's a lot of teenagers in and around the squad. It's a very young team, but he supplements that perfectly with that mix of experience. With players like Kelly Clark and Lisa in the middle park, who's been around this league for a long time. So we do have the sort of perfect balance at the moment, and that's good for not only this season, but the longevity of the team as well. If we've got all these youngsters coming through who are getting given a chance in big games, that can only be good for the future of the club in years to come as well.
Definitely, and we are experiencing a couple of delays to the feed today. One, we don't have the team lineup yet. Natasha will hopefully bring us that shortly. And the other one is we will be joined at some point by Russell Boyce, who we believe is currently drying his hair at the moment, but he will be joining us very shortly. We're blaming Natasha. Natasha told him it was a 2:30 kickoff, but I mean, he should be looking that stuff up himself. But
full disclosure, that's my fault. Full disclosure, I told him earlier that it was a 2:30 kickoff. Of course, it's 2 o'clock, so kickoff is 25 minutes away, and it'll be on the BBC Sport website for people who missed that in earlier.
Definitely. Now let's take a look back to the performances on Wednesday night. The 1-0 victory over Hibs. The goal coming once again from a terrific set-piece play. the short corner whipped in and the goal knocked in at the back post. Celtic's last 3 goals in this competition have come from corners or from set pieces, Natasha. And when I spoke to Fran Alonso yesterday in the press conference, he says he's delighted to see something like that working off for them. You can tell it's something they've been working on in the training ground. You can see them warming up at the minute. Are they doing anything special? Are we expecting maybe a wee special corner or free kick routine coming up today?
I can. So we're actually at the opposite end from where the girls are warming up. So just having a look at the moment, just going through their paces as you'd expect. Lovely day for it, I have to say. And yeah, like you touched on, there's nothing better for a manager than seeing something that you've worked on in a training ground come off so perfectly on the field of play. So the fact that we have been doing so well from set pieces and headers must really please Fran, and it speaks to the quality of the girls in that area as well.
Well, we're just seeing the team news coming through there. We'll take a look at it and then we will review it. But looking at the team that played on Wednesday night, there was 4 changes. And when I spoke to Fran on the press conference the other day, he was mentioning about the strength and depth of the squad. You mentioned yourself earlier, there's about 10 teenagers in that first team squad. So it does show that we're really relying on these players to get us through. But 11 games unbeaten, it shows the strength is definitely there.
It does, and you actually just have to look at how far the squad has come. When you look to the last time that Celtic played Forfar back in December, and that game finished 2-2. Celtic since then have strengthened their squad. They signed 3-4 new players just after that game. Then obviously we had the difficult break because of COVID, and then ever since then, apart from the defeat to Glasgow City, that 3-0 game, the girls just really bounced back and have went on a really incredible run, aided by these new players coming in who have really supplemented the squad and made it a lot better. And I think that's something Fran Alonso alluded to in that interview that I had with him last week. Something I asked is, what differences are we going to see between the last Forfar game and this Forfar game? And something he said as well, we've got quite a different squad. The addition of these 4 new players has really picked it up to a new level, and I agree with that. And you've seen it in the second half of this season. The performances just keep getting better and better. They recognise that the COVID break was difficult. Points were dropped straight off the back of that. And, in hindsight, he says, yes, there are things he may have done differently during that break. But let's hope that we never have another event similar that would cause such a break to happen. So we're going to have to learn from it. But, yeah, the last few weeks, the girls are absolutely flying, and we can only hope that they continue that run of form today.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when Chloe Craig was also part of that press conference, and she was saying the break kind of came at the wrong time for the girls. It was hard for them to get to stay fit and to stay motivated. But since they've came back, you cannot deny the passion and the performances that they've managed to put in. And just speaking of that, we do have the starting 11 for Celtic Women today. In goals, we see Johnston. We also see Craig, Lee, Jacinta, Robertson, Ewens, Donaldson, Kelly Clark, captain in the side, Hayes, Philby and Bowie. So that's 4 changes from the side that played against Hibs throughout the week. And we see the return of Jacinta, who is, without a doubt, Lawrence Connolly's favourite player, alongside Sarah Teagarden, obviously. But it's good to see a couple more attacking options because, as a few people may already know, this will be a game that Celtic will be looking to try and get that goal difference down, especially if we can take this title till the last day of the season, Natasha.
Yeah, it's so important right now that we start to make a dent into that goal difference between ourselves and Glasgow City. If there's that slim chance of, who knows, of finishing top of this league. Let's be honest, at the start of the season, Celtic would have really bitten your hand off for that second place Champions League spot. So if we manage to finish second this season, that's an incredible achievement for the girls. But in saying that, first is not out of reach. Obviously, we're still that 3 points behind, and there's quite a large goal difference. So if we really want to take this down to the last game of the season, we need to make some inroads into that goal difference today. It's certainly possible. Forfar have lost quite a few big score lines of recent. You just look back to that Rangers one where it was 11-0. So you do think there is potential for goals here, but this team can't be underestimated. Just looking back, as we touched on, to the last time we played them, it was 2-2. So there's potential for goals in the game, and it'll be interesting to see how Fran Alonso chooses to approach this one. It looks slightly more attacking than previous weeks, which is maybe what we'd expect, because of course, in the pursuit of that perhaps first place spot, we need to shorten the goal difference, we can't lose sight of the fact that second place is still also up for grabs in the minds of those across the city. They must be thinking that if we drop points, then it's certainly back in their court to perhaps do that. So we can't take our eye off the second spot being so important in a all-out attack sort of performance here today. So we need to be safe about it. We need to make sure of the victory, and if possible, then go on and add some goals to that.
Just making sure you're not getting attacked there from some of them shots. It heard as if it was coming off the fence. Maybe that's a good sign that you're at the Forfar end and that's them practicing their shooting for the game. But no, it's a great point you make. The goal difference could be very, very important when we come down to the last game of the season. Celtic will be away to Motherwell and Glasgow City will be up against Rangers. So it is almost a kind of do or die when it comes down to that. Just looking through some of the comments, we are live on Facebook, YouTube and on Twitter, so do get involved. Robert Arbuckle comes in to say, is Teagarden still on honeymoon? We believe she is. I'm not sure, Natasha, if we've heard if she'll be back for the game next week.
I don't think so. I think the wedding is next week, actually, so I don't expect her to be back for the end of the season.
Yeah, definitely, and we wish Sarah Teagarden all the best for her wedding, and we hope to see her back next year as we will be hopefully in the Champions League. Another 3 points today will certainly put us on that path. Now, someone that Lauren spoke quite a lot about through the week is the goalkeeper, Rachel Johnson. She comes in again, another clean sheet, and she's another one of those teenagers that we've been speaking about. There's about 10 of them in the first team squad, but she looks so assured with the gloves, and she keeps her position today. Are you surprised at that? Or are you thinking it's now her jersey to lose?
Having spoken to Fran on Friday, I think that I'm not surprised by it, actually. I think something that he likes to do is give these younger players proper game time. That's what he referred to it as. He's talking not about putting them on for 10 or 20 minutes at the end of the game. He's not talking about playing them once a game's already won. He's not talking about playing them against the lower league opposition. He's talking about playing them in real, proper, important games. Because like you said, if we want these young girls to get experience, the only way of doing that is giving them the experience here. So he puts a lot of faith in them. And as we've seen over the last few weeks, they've really been repaying that. So it's another great opportunity for her today, and I'm sure she'll do excellently.
Strangelove the Doctor coming in to say, I like Robertson in the middle and Warrington at left back is fantastic. Now, Warrington was the Axon player of the match on Wednesday night, but she's on the bench today. We see Bowie coming in there as well, someone that has been well known to the people at Celtic State of Mind. I think there's a bit of a connection there. Again, another youngster coming through the team. It's really, really interesting to see the amount of youngsters that are given a chance here today. As you said, they're supplemented by that experience with Kelly Clark coming in and captaining the side again today. I think she had a great second half against Hibs as well. At one point, it looked as if Hibs were sort of all over Celtic, really pushing towards getting that equalising goal. Clark comes on, commanding figure in the middle of the park, and that's what you need. You need that experience to see out a tough game like Wednesday night.
Exactly, and something that Fran mentioned in the interview is that the mentality is so important coming into these final games of the season. As much as the physicality, the tactics are so important, the mentality aspect of it is paramount. And it's actually something that's really important to him and his philosophy of the game as well, is making sure that the mentality is right. And those experienced players are the ones who can bring that to the game and supplement the younger players and help them through the game as they get this experience. So I think he struck a really good balance of that today. And we just have to look over the last few weeks. The fixture list is very congested. There are a lot of games. And I think, maybe in the last 15-20 minutes against Rangers, the same again against Hibs, you do notice the fitness levels, and it is that time of the season that you are going to need to dig deep. So squad rotation and being able to rely on a bigger squad, even the younger players, is really important at this stage of the season, and we're seeing Fran Alonso doing that. Yeah.
Just bringing this one up, Alfred Noble coming in to say, is it on Alaba? The game is not on Alaba today. It's on BBC Sports Scotland's website. Kickoff is 2 p.m, so do check that out once we come off air. Daniel Mack coming in to say, that's terrible form, 3 weeks off for a wedding during the season. Now, Sarah Teagarden isn't the only Celtic player this year to have taken a couple of weeks off to go and get married. Ismaila Soro also done the exact same for the men's team. So whilst the timing isn't perfect, it's just one of these things during the current situation that we're in. And as we said, we wish her all the best for her upcoming marriage. Now, we spoke a lot about the interviews with Fran Alonso this week. You've had a good sit-down interview with him. I was part of the press conference yesterday. One of the things that he brought up was this idea that only a couple of weeks ago, the Celtic team were the third horse in a two-horse race. They were almost completely written off, and since then they've went on an 11-game unbeaten run. They have 2 games left of the season, today against Forfar Farmington and next week against Motherwell. Now, these are 2 of the lower sides in the SWPL. Their teams, as Natasha's quite rightly said, have lost by quite big scorelines this season. Celtic beat Forfar earlier in the season 8-0. Rangers beat them 11-0. And I think Glasgow City took 8 off them earlier in the season as well. So it's safe to say that Celtic's next 2 games, they couldn't have asked for better ones when it comes into it. But they've came through the hard games. They've drawn with Glasgow City, a game they should have arguably won when Sarah Ewens missed the penalty. They've beaten Rangers twice over that period. They had a fantastic win over Hibs midweek. The mentality that's been shown by this team, it cannot be denied, and it's something that has been missing in the men's game this season, is that strength and mentality. And Natasha, these last 2 games, these are the girls' reward for getting through those 2 games. Although you've got to be professional, you've got to see these games out, this gives them the best chance of getting what they started to achieve at the start of the season.
Yeah, the girls all know the incentive. They know what prize up for grabs if they can continue to their run of form and get the 3 points in these next 2 games. It's a massive reward for them, and they are very, very aware of it. But something Fran says is that we have to take one game at a time and focus on what we've got to do here. We can't start thinking too far ahead. We can't start thinking about Champions League football. Right now, we have to think about Forfar. That's easier said than done. I'm sure it's always in the back of the girls' heads. But it is a massive incentive, and something that we'd all love to see is that as the girls get Champions League football next season, I think this could be some amazing experiences for them. And I think it would draw a wider crowd as well and do a world of good to the Celtic brand if we manage to get our women's team that sort of publicity in the Champions League finals or in the Champions League's group stages, not the finals. Let's not get carried away.
We're getting ahead of ourselves there.
Perhaps getting ahead of ourselves. But what we're saying is that having them in this illustrious competition, along with the other teams in there from women's leagues who are much more developed than the Scottish leagues, can only be a positive. So, massive reward, definitely in our hands. And yeah, there's absolutely no reason, like you've touched on with the 2 games that we've got ahead of us, that we can't go ahead and do that.
Now, Fran Alonso spoke about that the other day, about being involved in the Champions League, and as you said, taking it 1 game at a time. But the opportunity was brought up to him about potentially playing those Champions League games at Celtic Park. Now, to that, he responded back saying that you've had positive discussions with Dominic Mackay about the investment in the team for next season, about investing in the playing surface and everything else that is involved in the women's game. But one of the major talking points was that they've had the discussions about playing at Celtic Park next season. Now, anyone who is a season ticket holder for the men's team will know part of the incentives that you have for next season is that you'll get free entry when allowed into a game at Celtic Park where the women's team will be playing. But Fran has mentioned that that might not be the only game that they're playing, and that he is desperate to play in front of, as he says, his words, paradise and the best supporters in the world. Now, it's an easy cliche to say, Natasha, but you just get the feeling that Fran Alonso is a guy that definitely gets what Celtic's all about. And I think they've deserved that reward of playing in front of a crowd at Celtic Park next season for what they've done this year. And in Fran's words, they want to break the attendance record for women's football in Scotland. And do you know what? I really hope they do it.
I'd absolutely love to see it. And you only have to spend a short period of time in Fran's company to understand that it's completely true. He does get this club and he is fully bought into it, and he's a great ambassador for it. In terms of the girls playing at Celtic Park, I really hope to see more of that, and I know that Fran does as well. One thing that's really important to him is improving the quality of the women's game, and one thing that's so important for that is giving them access to top-class facilities. You can't expect to have the highest quality game on a low-quality pitch, which is unfortunately what we saw against Hibs earlier in the week. The pitch wasn't great there. Fran Alonso himself has compared it to a potato field, for want of a better phrase, but I don't think he was entirely wrong with that. So if we want the girls' game to develop, and if we want it to grow and be the best version of itself that it can possibly be, then access to the top-class facilities is fundamental. And what better facility than Celtic Park? And if we're able to do that, and if we're able to facilitate more games, more of the women's games at Celtic Park, then I certainly don't see why we wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I think it's only, for me, fair it is only fair that if you're going to be playing in a European competition, then you play it at Celtic Park. You show the rest of the world the facilities that Celtic have to offer. As you said, it has to be better than the facilities that we've seen on Wednesday night. No dig at Hibs at all, but it was a horrendous surface, an absolutely horrendous surface. I'm getting a bit flustered because I thought I'd seen Fran Alonso, but it turns out it's not. It's actually Russell Boyce.
Come on!
You made it 10 minutes before kickoff. That's impressive.
Mate,
some people would still be in a boozer.
I know how professional Natasha is, but she got the times wrong today, right? She led me up a garden path. However, I put myself in the eye with a hairdryer, and I tried to make up for it by wearing the hoops with the white Fran Alonso. What more can I do, mate?
So we were just discussing there, Russell, about the women's team having the potential to play at Celtic Park next season. We said there's obviously a game part of the men's season ticket, but also if we qualify for the Champions League, it is a must that they play those games at Celtic Park.
I couldn't agree more. I think we've seen the difference. I actually think the plastic pitch doesn't help the game anyway. I think you've seen guys like Chris Julian coming here in the men's team and being completely baffled by the flight and the deviation of the ball. When he's trying, I know people say Lyndon Dykes bullied him. I actually think he was just a confused man. I've actually watched the Celtic games I've seen when they played on a grass pitch. They play much better football. No brainer.
The only thing about that was obviously the game on Wednesday night was a grass pitch, but it just wasn't a pitch that was well maintained. And Fran Alonso's came out and says that's the sort of surface that is not deserving of the high quality of football that you're looking to see in this league. So although, I mean, K Park today we're playing on a plastic surface, but that's going to be a far better surface than what we played on Wednesday night. So you've got to find that balance. Yes, you want to play on a grass pitch, but it has to be of a good level.
No, I totally agree. I think Fran Alonso finds a way to win. End of. I don't think he's ever going to, bitch and moan about the type of pitch we're on. I think Fran Alonso is just, he knows how to manage these situations. He doesn't make excuses, and he gets the team on side. It's easy work, man. Easy work.
Question for the panel coming in from Daniel Mack. Do you think they could draw 5,000 to 10,000 to Parkhead for Champions League games? I think you could be talking at least that. That.
Completely agree. The club would need to do better to market it. I know one game on the season ticket is going to be offered next year. Personally, I think there needs to be more. I think it needs to be more linked to the men's season ticket to encourage people to go along to the women's game. Something that I talked about with Fran Alonso last week was that I feel that people only need to watch one game. We need to get them in the door once. We need to show them one game of the girls, show how good the quality is, show the determination, the effort that the girls put in, and then they buy into it, they invest in it. Just like we have on here, Russell freely admitted before that he only started watching women's football earlier this season, and now he's fully invested in it, supports it, enjoys it, and it's just another source of enjoying Celtic playing football. We need to get people in the door once to make them see that, and I think if we do that, then there is no limit as to how high we can go with the sort of attendance figures, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that next season.
Yeah, I think
I subscribe to everything she said there, by the way. I think that's spot on. I think it's too easy to go, he's faking it. No one faked it. When I jumped off my bed, like sitting on my bed, watching the Glasgow derby and Ewan score that header, I jumped off my bed fist pumping for no one. Nobody. No one else is in the room. And then, to be called that's faking it, I think is the knuckle draggers we need to deal with. Do you know what I mean? Like they're the ones that are still in decline in life, Open mind. Keep an open mind. You'll be surprised.
Right, guys, I'm going to go and let you guys enjoy the game. Everyone else, remember, it's on the BBC Sport website. Enjoy, and I will catch you back at half-time and full-time for all the reaction here from K Park, and hopefully another 3 points for the girls.
Enjoy the game, Natasha. Take care.
Oh, that analysis was terrible, wasn't it? Why did she get a pass for that? It's just not fair. Honestly, see the night nonsense. The last game she went to, she literally is tuning in live, giving us updates and her vibe from the game. But everyone wanted a 500-word essay written, or it was just a fan going to a game. Really, not fair.
And
she did a great job, and I'm buzzing. I'm buzzing for today, mate. I think
she only covered you for the first 18 minutes as well, which was fantastic.
Yeah, all right. Yep. I'm blaming her for that, you know.
Now, just before we go and watch the game ourselves, we've got a couple of minutes before kickoff.
Yeah.
Now, someone who has played for both sides of both teams in today's game is London Pollard. Now, I think she's only 16, 17 years old.
17, just done 17.
Yeah. She signed from Forfar in May 2021. She joined them from Cove Rangers back in March 2020. Someone that's came through the Scotland schoolgirls, and someone who is offering a different dimension for Celtic up front. When she comes on, despite her kind of young age, she's able to hold the ball up well. She gets in behind defences. And today, if this Forfar team starts to tire, you've got to think that's someone that you're looking to get 20, 25 minutes, stretch the game and maybe get those important goals like we were discussing with the goal difference.
I think you're spot on. I think today is such it's a really difficult, although it's a good position, it's a difficult one as well, right? Because as long as we get 3 points today, that's us Champions League pretty much done, right? But you have to have eyes on the title, Colin. You know that. You know how it works, mate. You've got to. Right, so he's now going to be in a situation. He goes, I need to make sure we win first and foremost. But if we were to get the goals that we're hoping we do, we could be right in the mix. Put the seed of doubt in Glasgow City's head. That'd be my advice.
Mm-hmm.
I think first half is about winning. Second half is about pedal the metal. And I think you'll already. I know. I almost sound patronising, like saying that, because I've got every faith Fran Alonso understands that. Do you know that? I just think he gets this whole thing. You were at his press conference, Colin.
Yep.
Right? How impressed were you? You asked me last week. How impressed generally were you with him?
Oh, as I said just before you came on, he's someone that really does get it, and he's totally fell into the love of the club. You see it even when he's in the press conference. Now, I know he's probably got his set up like that, but he's got the Celtic badge behind him. He's got the Celtic jersey behind him. It's
wearing it.
Yeah, it's we. It's us. It's not the club. He's someone you can tell that's clearly fell into the love of the game. Now, something that he said on the press conference and that really kind of stuck with me was, you support Celtic regardless of the gender. Now, that for me is, if you're asking someone, does he get it? That statement alone tells you he gets it, and you can see that emanating through him. He is a Celtic man. Do
you relate with that as well? Do you think perhaps, please, like, I'm holding you to account on this because I'm not. I think I'm the world's worst. I think we're all guilty of treating it as Celtic women.
Mm-hmm.
It's calling it Celtic.
Yeah.
Call it Celtic. Forget the women's, forget the men's bit. Call it Celtic. And you subscribe, you just hope you can't help it yourself but do it. And I think he's been just an amazing advocate for not just the women's game. I hate going on about that because, as I've always said to you, I was like, equality stems from criticising Sarah Ewens and Sarah Honker or Logan, the keeper, when they've made a howler. That's just life, right? Yep. And that's the only way to treat people with respect is by speaking the same way. I actually think Fran Alonso, forget the women's aspect, I think he's uniting Celtic right now.
It's definitely what's needed considering everything that's going on with the Celtic fan base at the moment. You just need to take one look at social media to see where everyone's at, especially after the news on Friday, that Eddie Howe will not be taking the job. So I'm sure we'll have a...
Quick question.
Yeah.
Would you take the Audi guy or Fran Alonso as the manager?
Right now, if given the opportunity, I'd take Fran.
There we go.
I'd take Fran.
Me too.
But we'll see what he has to do today. Celtic just about to kick off against Forfar Farmington. The game is live on BBC Sports Scotland website. Do tune in. We'll be back at half-time. We'll be joined once again by Natasha Meikle, live from K Park, to give her analysis as well. Russell, thank you for joining us.
Sorry for being late,
we'll be back.
Sorry, mate.
It's all right, mate. And we'll be back at half-time. All the best to the girls.